So Revelations 21. Then I saw a new sky, heaven, and a new earth. He burns the earth with fire, creates it new. For the former sky and the former earth had passed away and vanished, and there was no longer any sea. So we no longer have seas to divide us. Doesn't mean there won't be water, okay? But there won't be the division. See, seas divide us right now. We can't go from one place to another without transportation. And I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, all arrayed like a bride, beautiful and adorned for her husband. I'm going to stop you right here because we're going to deal with a lie that's going on in the church. This is one of the false teachings going on in the church, is like a bride, the New Jerusalem is really you. It's not an actual physical city, it's you. And so like a bride, I'm not joking, that is a teaching going on in churches right now. That you are the New Jerusalem, and that God was really talking about you. He's going to bring his bride to a full understanding. I love the best understanding I ever heard of this was Rod Parsley. Rod Parsley, one day he was teaching on heaven. He said, let me tell you something about a false teaching going around, that heaven is not the New Jerusalem is not a physical place, but a spiritual dimensional thing, that you're the new bride and all that stuff. He said, let me tell you something about it being a real physical place. God gave dimensions for the Ark of the Covenant. Physical dimensions. He gave physical dimensions for Noah's Ark. He gave physical dimensions multiple times of many different things. The temple, everything they ever built, he gave physical dimensions for and descriptions. He gives physical dimensions right here in this chapter for the New Jerusalem. He said, if God made it real always go back and look at what God's character was in the past. And you will always know what his character is in the future. Because God doesn't change. So if he gave physical characteristics in all those instances, it's a physical place, I guarantee you. And I'm telling you, I was shouting off my couch. Because I was hearing him preaching. I was like, you go! Because, come on, people. Don't, remember when I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. When you try to make sense out of something, and then you try to twist it and do different things, you'll get into nonsense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the problem that people are having. They try to spiritualize something that God literally meant literal. Yeah. So John is actually seeing this. And I believe if John said he saw it. Right. Yeah. I don't think John was a liar. So, and I just got to say, John is on an island when he's writing this. In the middle of no man's land. In the rocks. This island literally had no greenery. It was rock. He is hungry. I don't know if he was cold, but he was in a cave and he was writing this stuff. I've seen pictures of this, where he was at and what was being, he wasn't in a comfortable place. So to be sitting there seeing heaven, this was a comfort to him. But he wasn't even sure if he was going to get off this place for these words to get out to anybody. He wasn't making this up. God stuck him in the middle of nowhere, and he gave him this, and it was everybody that heard it when he came off Patmos and he was released was shocked, and it shook the church. It was an incredible revelation. And so, I mean, he was really seeing this. This was real to him. So I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, descending down from the heaven, from God, all arrayed like a bride, beautiful and adorned for her husband. Then I heard a mighty voice from the throne, and I perceived its distinct words, saying, see, the abode of God is with men, and he will live in a camp and tent among them, and they shall be his people, and God will personally be with them and be their God. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Why could Jesus make death no more? Because he has the keys. That's why. And neither shall there be any anguish or sorrow or mourning nor grief nor pain anymore. He's actually perfected our bodies at that point. So our bodies won't die. You'll stay a certain age and always stay there. Mm-hmm. You won't age. You won't grow past a certain age. You'll get to an age and maintain. that age. We won't have all the things that we deal with aging and sores and the aches and the pains. We won't get tired and have to sleep. We will eat, but we will eat more for, the Bible talks about eating leaves off of a tree for the healing of the nations. There's food, and we were going to feast at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Yeah. So obviously there's food, but we won't need food to maintain our bodies as much as food will be more of a type of pleasure, but it won't be something that you need a lot of. Yeah. So it'll be very, very different. Because we'll actually live off the presence of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine that? That's awesome. Yes. And God will wipe away every tear. And there won't be any grief, no pain anymore. For old conditions and former orders of things have been passed away. That means he can get rid of gravity. Think about that. No, I'm just joking. And he who is seated on the throne said, "See, I make all things new." And he said, "Record this, for these sayings are faithful and accurate and incorruptible and trustworthy and true and genuine." And he further said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I myself will give water without price, from the fountain and the springs of water of life. And he who is victorious shall inherit all these things, and I will be God to him, and he shall be my son. But as for the cowards and the ignoble and the contemptible and the cravingly lacking in courage and the cowardly submissive, and as for the unbelieving and faithless, and as for the depraved and defiled with abominations, and as for murderers and the lewd and the adulterous and practicers of magic arts and idolaters, those who have given supreme devotion to anyone and anything other than God, and all liars, those who knowingly convey untruth by word or deed, and all of these shall have their part in the lake that blazes with fire and brimstone, and that is the second death. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls, filled with the seven final plagues, which is the afflictions and calamities, came and spoke to me, and he said, "Come with me, and I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." And then in the Spirit he conveyed me away to a vast and lofty mountain, and exhibited to me the holy, hallowed, consecrated city of Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, clothed in God's glory in all its splendor and radiance. And he begins to describe here the walls and the 12 large gates that are fashioned from one pearl. And he begins to describe the 12 tribes are written on the gates. And the 12 tribes, this is 12 gates. And he also begins to describe each one, and he begins to describe the stones that are inlaid on the walls. Mm-hmm. And the different kinds. And I'm not going to go through all that because we'll be here forever.